right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith, here alone for a solo interview episode with the great Cole Zwicker, talking about Summer League again, getting a little more in-depth about some of the prospects. We pretty much hit every first-round draft pick who played, talk about a lot of the second-year players and veterans and guys who popped out in Summer League. Cole obviously is the draft expert with the Stepien, so he knows a lot more than I do about these guys. So he lets me know where my quick snap opinions are incorrect, or maybe I saw something accurately. So we get really deep into all the Summer League prospects. If you're a Grizzlies fan, I just released a brand new podcast, Grits and Grind, for our Patreon supporters only. If you want that right now, if you join at the $1 level, you can get access to that. Talked about the Grizzlies Summer League Championship, about their roster as it currently stands, about Andre Iguodala and Coach Taylor Jenkins, all kinds of stuff. If you want that, go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Also, I've been mailing out some of those Boban shirts, the Boban shirts that were all over my Twitter feed that we got in the hands of Mark Cuban and Rick Carlisle. The Boban NBA logo shirts we have heather gray and black tri-blend shirts, Bella Canvas t-shirts. They're very, very high quality, soft and comfortable shirts. Our logo is written on the back. If you want one of those shirts, they are $20, and that includes shipping. You just have to email me at fastbreakbreak@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter at fastbreakbreak. They're $20 included shipping. Shipping's included in that. If you're a Patreon supporter, they're only $15, and that includes shipping. So if you want one of those Boban shirts, or I also have some of the John Wick NBA logo shirts on a nice dark heather. Those, same thing, $15 for a Patreon supporter, $20 for a non-Patreon supporter. I'll get those out to you. If you just want to buy our shirts off of TeePublic, those shirts are on sale right now as well, and that has a lot more color options and varieties to choose from. tpublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast. You can get our shirts there, and obviously all those purchases support this show. So anyway, now let's get to talking about Summer League prospects with Cole Zwicker. My guest today is an NBA draft expert for the Stepien.com. He can be regularly heard on the Game Theory podcast and is a frequent summertime guest on Fast Break Breakfast. Cole Zwicker. Cole, how's it going?
Doing well, man. It's kind of the downtime. I'm trying to find ways to entertain myself. Got into some FIBA basketball last night. Gonna eventually get into some AAU, but it's crazy. It's to go from the draft to free agency and then to summer league, and then it's like nothing is going on.
Yeah, it's officially over. We have the big three. We have the tournament. I'm not going to get into AAU, Cole. I'm just, it's a
wise choice.
That's not my bag. We do have the FIBA World Cup coming up, so it's not a complete desert, I guess, for the NBA diehards. I feel bad. Have you ever gotten into or gotten sucked into the tournament?
As far as FIBA goes?
No. I'm saying the proper name, the tournament. Like the $2 million winner take all. You can't be an NBA player basketball thing that goes on.
No, I can't do it. There's too much other shit to catch up on, so I'll do that.
I watched other years, but it really broke my spirit because like you can win money sitting at home if you are like a top fan for one of those teams. Like if you get people to vote for the team you support, then you rise in these rankings. It's very convoluted, but I like sort of tried to do it last year, and I was prepared to win like $10,000 if two teams won, but one of the teams I was the biggest supporter of quit the day of the first game, and I was like, all that energy, all that social media clout wasted for nothing. Anyway, Cole, let's do your breakfast. Do you eat breakfast? You don't eat breakfast, right?
I do occasionally. Today, scrambled eggs, grapefruit, coffee.
Pretty
standard.
Okay. thanks for bringing the high heat for me.
There you go.
With that breakfast. So you didn't go to Vegas this year. Did you do anything to simulate Vegas? Did you buy a bunch of expensive food to feel the financial hit? Did you just sit alone to feel the overwhelming loneliness? What did you do any Vegas substitutes while you weren't there?
I think the only partial substitute is in Seattle. It really gets really hot. And during that week, we had like 80-degree weather, even though it wasn't humid or dry heat and not 110 degrees. But isolationism here, just watching a ton of games, and same kind of general idea. When I go to Vegas, usually I'm in the gym for 10 hours drinking coffee. So I was kind of simulating that with caffeine here and just watching a ton of games.
Right. That's the fun part about the quote unquote fun part about Vegas. Despite the fact there are millions of people everywhere, just crushing loneliness. Just it's like you see your buddies, you see like your NBA Twitter buddies or your other people you see online, but just like walking back to the hotel, you're like, man, what a strange place. What a strange, bizarre place. But anyway, the Summer League basketball was a bit of a letdown this summer. It seemed like, because a lot of the top guys weren't playing. I feel like some years I gain a lot of information. Like I'm seeing people I've never seen before, or I'm completing a picture on people I have a vague idea about. I feel like I didn't learn almost anything this summer. I'm hoping you learn some things, being able to sit at home and watch them, that you can let me or fill me in about. So I guess the first question I want to ask is, based on your pre-draft rankings of this rookie class, based on the rookies you got to see play, were there any immediate regrets or like things you felt really good about as far as how your draft board matched up when you saw these guys playing against slightly higher level of competition?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know if there's any regrets or anything I want to like pat my chest about or anything like that. A lot of it is I've seen these guys really in depth, and their strengths and weaknesses, and what kind of climate's going to elicit that. So with the guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I had ranked pretty low. I had him like 26, I think, on my board, and he was much better than that. I mean, in a Vegas setting, he was at least 1B to Brandon Clark's 1A as far as the rookie class goes, but his biggest issues are athleticism based and how they translate to the highest levels of play against like real NBA athletes. So this climate is not really going to answer that, even though he was awesome. Like 26 seems definitely low. I could argue that that's at least 10 spots too low. But the reasons I was low on him are not going to be answered in this setting, so it's really hard to say.
So how does he translate to the NBA? This is a guy who I actually saw several of the Pelicans games because they were like one of the only interesting teams to watch. And, he was scoring a bunch of points. He was hitting a bunch of threes. He was getting a lot of steals and blocks. But so how does that translate, or like what's his archetype when he actually joins the league?
Yeah, I think he's more of a secondary creator. I think in Summer League he was playing a lot of lead ball handler, initiator on offense, and he was pretty good at it, honestly. I mean, his craft, you can see just how diverse his skill set is, how ambidextrous he is as far as a passer, can pass with either hand, can finish with either hand, kind of has that awkward like craft, much in the ways his cousin Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He doesn't have Shai's tools, but you can see a lot of the awkwardness and kind of the subtle, I want to say brilliance in some areas, but just the fact that he can really contort his body, can up and under you with the left, and you just don't really know how to defend those guys a lot of the times just because they're not standard as far as not super explosive. They don't go up off like the first jump. They can delay an extra second. I think there's a lot of that subtlety to his game, but I do think more in the NBA, I don't know if he's going to have the separation ability, the first step, the burst to initiate in a 1-5 pick and roll setting. I think he's always been projected more as like a secondary ball handler. And usually those guys have to be crazy shooters, crazy shot makers, like a CJ McCollum type. He's not that good of a shooter, but he does bring ancillary passing that can be a surplus value off the ball.
Yeah, I think the game I paid the closest attention to was the Grizzlies game, and he was miserable. I think he was 5 for 23 from the field. All those funny looking shots that I was really enjoying in all the other games, where I was like, "This guy's a wizard." It was like, "Oh, he's just now missing all
exactly."
Of them. So that's not great. What about his teammate Jackson Hayes, who had the big poster dunk? He had those exciting plays, but also, I don't know. I feel like that was like the first initiation and his first game. He scored a bunch of points. But after that, I was kind of, I guess, ambivalent towards him. What'd you see from him?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Kind of both him and Nickeil had outstanding first games. I mean, that just really set the stage. That set the bar really high because they were incredible. Like Hayes was flying everywhere, had a ton of blocks in that game. You saw the range, you saw the ability, the movement skills. He's incredible. He moves like a wing. I don't know if there's anybody his size that really can run the floor like he can. A lot of flash plays. But when you actually go through the tape, I watched every one of his minutes in Summer League. The defense isn't there as far as the recognition ability, the physicality, like how he defends the post. All of these things were tremendous work in progress. And I think that was to be expected. If you heard David Griffin talk about him, he was basically like, we intended to have him redshirt basically his rookie year. This guy is a developmental prospect. You can see the upside with his movement skills, but I do think the reaction to his dunk especially, I've never seen him jump that high before. He's explosive, but he's not crazy. That was one of the best dunks I've ever seen from that size. Like I don't think that's getting the proper, it's getting the proper attention, but as far as contextualizing how incredible that was for his size, he did not do that in college. Like he can cover ground and like dunk, and he has a great catch radius because he has huge arms and he has really big hands, incredible hands. But as far as dunking on someone like that, it's pretty crazy. But I do think a little bit of the effect was this guy had highlight plays. And then when you really break down the film, it's like this guy has a long way to go. And it's not like it's a bad thing for him. It's just people got to kind of keep it in context that he's not going to come into the league and be like that caliber of the player we saw opening night there in Summer League.
Yeah, that dunk, I've been racking my brain. I'm pretty sure it's the best dunk I've ever seen in person. I can't think of a better dunk. I mean, it was like the Dwight Howard Superman dunk from the All-Star contest, but he actually grabbed the rim. And there was a person who he kneed in the jaw, like while he did it. So it was, that was delicious. Let's talk about a guy who I know you were high on, who's on my team, the Grizzlies. Brandon Clark, you said like he was maybe 1B or 1A with Nickeil Alexander-Walker as far as maybe the top rookies there. He won the MVP. I don't know if you know this story. You probably haven't heard it we've been talking about it a lot on our show. So we host these Grizzlies watch parties in Nashville. And we had a draft watch party, and I don't know anything about the draft pretty much other than what you tell me or what I glean, in brief little glimpses online. So the only thing I knew about draft prospects was you liked Brandon Clark. This is like after we got out of the top 10. And so we're hosting this draft watch party, and when I realized he's still on the board about 16 or 17, I'm like, hey, we could get this Brandon Clark guy who I know the Stepien feels very strongly about or whatever. And so then when it got to be like 18 or 19 and like the Woj bomb broke that the Grizzlies were trading to 21, I was like pretty fired up. I might have had a few drinks. And I was started running around this bar. And then I don't know, there's like 50 people, maybe 40 or 50 people there watching for this Grizzlies draft party. And I'm starting to tell people like, we're going to draft Brandon Clark at 21. This is our pick. And I was real excited running around like hunting for high fives. Everyone else was very, very confused. They didn't know why I was yelling for the Thunder pick. And anyway, but it was all about your pre-ranking. And so now I'm taking another victory lap after this Grizzlies Summer League championship. I'm like, you guys remember that time I was running around excited and y'all don't know what I was doing? This is it. So anyway, Brandon Clark, obviously, he took Summer League by storm. He's way older than a bunch of the other people, so he's 22, but definitely Summer League was a thing he could excel at. What'd you see from him? And I guess also the flip side, how much should I now temper my expectations?
Yeah, I mean, as advertised for me, I think there's a lot of surprises because I shouldn't say nobody, a lot of people didn't give him credit for any kind of shooting acumen. And you look at his touch, and this is something we really harped on pre-draft, is this guy, it's been a progression. It's been 3 years of completely overhauling his mechanics. He used to have a shot put from literally the right side of his shoulder. I mean, it was not even a real shot. I've never seen anybody shoot like that before. So you got to give this guy time to really develop that because you can see the outstanding touch on the move. And it's not really he didn't really finish that well. Like he's much better finisher than that usually as far as missing those runners. You're going to see that a lot better at the NBA level. I think it's going to regress to what he's usually good at, but I think there was a lot of surprise because of the shooting and how he was branded as like this non-shooter. There were some scouts that thought he was like Larry Nance or something. And there's just so much subtle brilliance to his game. Like as far as the rotations he makes on defense, the ability to really hang in the air, verticality, and then swipe at the ball. He targets the ball in midair. You just don't see a lot of guys his size do that. He, of course, 6'8" wingspan. Like how does this guy survive on the floor? Well, he's an elite level functional athlete, like historically elite at the combine, functionally on the floor in so many different ways. And I think you just saw that kind of all play out in someone who's just incredibly good at basketball. I had him as my third guy on my board, but I think he's he's the second best basketball player in this class as far as pure basketball player. He's incredible on defense. And the thing is, like, he was playing in summer league, and the surrounding cast wasn't that good. I mean, Memphis's point guards. It was like one of the most overachieving teams I've ever seen. I feel really bad because you asked me if Memphis could win summer league pre summer league, and I was like, "There's no way." I looked at these initiators, and I was like, "Who the hell is like getting these guys the basketball?" And then it just turned out that they beat the two best teams in summer league back to back. It was pretty incredible.
It was Tyler Harvey, baby. Tyler Harvey.
Yeah, he can shoot the hell out of the ball, man. I remember him at Eastern Washington. But I think with Clark, you saw the defensive acumen, the rim protection. I thought his first game against the Clippers was actually his best there in the first half, where he altered probably 9 shots in the first half. And he's 6'8" wingspan, but again, when you can get off the floor that quick and you're a crazy high level athlete that has that bounce and has the anticipation to get in the right places, that's what happens. So I think you just saw a little bit of his skill set too, like attacking face-ups. You saw him blow by Jackson Hayes in space. So the best part is, though, again, he's going to be playing with Jaren Jackson in the future, who's going to space the floor. He's going to be able to play that play finisher role, a lot of the pick and roll dive stuff we saw him excel at with the dunks. And he's got John Morant, who's a great passer, and he's going to get him the ball in his spots. And I think you're going to see even better offensive acumen from him in the future.
So I've been ribbing you about you told me not to take the Grizzlies at 30-1 in summer league. You got to know nothing you said dissuaded me from placing that bet. If I had been at a sports book that was offering that bet, I would have done it. I know. I think I had to make it over to the West Gate to place the 30-1 bet. I just didn't do it. It wasn't you. It was just me not going there early in summer league. I did feel bad.
I feel better now.
Yeah. I was just messing with you. I want to say 2 years ago, I was actually extremely confident that the Grizzlies would do really well in summer league, and they were 40-1. And I also didn't place the bet, and they made it to the semifinals, lost to the buzzer, and I was feeling pretty nervous about that one. Because that one I had every intention of placing the bet and did not. So I'm now looking at Brandon Clark on the Grizzlies. I'm pretending he was the second overall pick, and John Morant is the 21st pick. This is how I've tempered my expectations. So I don't know anything about John Morant. I watched him play one basketball game in the NCAA tournament, and he got hammered by Florida State. Is Brandon Clark better than John Morant, or is John Morant going to show me some stuff too when he finally plays?
He's definitely going to show you some stuff.
Okay.
Morant is, to me, I had him at number 2 on my board, so Clark 3, Morant 2, just because of his role value as an initiator of your offense. I think he's the only guy in the draft really outside of Zion eventually who can create for himself and for others and kind of initiate your offense. I just think that role value is so valuable as far as a guy. You just need guys on the ball who can make plays, and that's what Morant is. He's got great ability to get to the lane. He's got a plethora of dribble moves. He's incredibly quick side to side as far as burst as well, north-south. It's going to be a progress. It's going to be a progression. Like, he's not going to come into the league and dominate. It's very hard for primary creators to do that. And I think you're going to see Brandon Clark is going to be better in year 1. I think he's going to be more efficient. It's just easier for him to excel in his role, which he's already really good at, than it is for Ja. But I think long term, you can argue that Ja has the greater upside. We'll see if the defense comes around. That's a tremendous work in progress. How good the pull-up is, how much the shot translates. I'm a little higher on that than some people are, just because I feel like he does have touch, and he has shown the acumen to shoot threes, both off the dribble when you duck under screens and off the catch. But it's going to be a process, because you can't just look at him and say he's going to come in and have a Trae Young type of season. Trae Young was a much better shooter, much better in pick and roll as far as being experienced there. It's going to be like maybe Morant in years 3 and year 4 really blows up, but I think it's going to be a bit hard for him initially.
Does he have the ability or even the want to put up a bunch of shots? Because I'm looking right now at the Grizzlies, and no one on the team is a scorer. Like, you hope Jaren Jackson Jr., can maybe get, I don't know, 17 points per game or something, or up it to that. He's going to have a heavy load on offense. But if they do roll out this team, which they currently have, of no one who's really a prolific offensive scorer, they have all these fun, like, defensive players. Like, can Ja put up 20 shots per game? Is that a good thing for his rookie year to put up that many shots?
I think he can. I don't know if it's a good thing, just because you might develop bad habits. He's not going to be efficient doing that. He's just not ready for that. As far as scoring at any level of the defense, like, he can get to the rim, but can he absorb contact? Can he finish over the top of bigger bigs? Like you said against Florida State, you watched that game, and that was the best sample size we've seen from any prospect this past season, because it was a very NBA type system, how they defended him, a lot of over and drop coverage. after they started going under, and I think John made like 5 pull-up threes in the first half, and they were like, screw it, we're going to make you finish from the mid-range and over our 7'4" center. And he couldn't do it. He was like 3 of 15 from 2-point range the rest of that game, and he's going to have to be more efficient there, and that's going to take time to iron out. And like you said, due to the surrounding personnel in Memphis and his role, he's going to take a lot of shots. You just hope that, you know, he doesn't develop terrible habits in the process. He's a smart player. He's going to look to pass, but I think the way defenses are going to defend him is going to make it really hard for him to be efficient from the off.
Yeah, that Florida State game, I think, could be a harbinger of Grizzlies games. Like John Morant, he scored 25 points. They lost by 30. Let's look at some of the other top draft picks. Obviously, Zion Williamson, he played in that one first half. Did we learn anything, or did you learn anything about Zion from his 9 minutes in Summer League?
No.
Okay.
No, there's nothing really to learn in that stint. I mean, I'm sure some people that were expecting him to be a more like not prolific shooter, but like capable. You saw kind of the long wind up off the dribble. The shot mechanics are a tremendous work in progress. It's not like this guy's going to come into the league and start shooting threes at a high level. So I think that was a little bit of pushback people were saying, is like, how's this guy going to score when he can't really shoot? We don't like his mechanics or whatnot. And you'll see.
Yeah. My takeaway was that, you know, he was awful on offense, where his jumper was like hilariously bad, and then you could see him every time he got the ball. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do a juke and drive into the paint. And it like never worked. But then they ran those post-ups for him where he's like, I'm just going to throw Kevin Knox to the ground more than once and dunk viciously. I was joking. Ben Taylor was there watching, and he's like, yeah, the Zion does not look good at all. And I'm like, the man had 4 dunks in his first quarter of play. Like, yeah, he's rough around the edges, but you can knock a guy down with your butt and then dunk it. That's pretty good too, right?
Oh, yeah, just take the ball away from Knox. That was incredibly disrespectful. But you're going to see more diverse ways that he's utilized. Like, he's going to be utilized as the screener, kind of like Ben Simmons should be at times. But you're right. I mean, if he doesn't shoot, you have to get to the rim somehow. He's going to be awesome in transition, though. I think that's something that we didn't get to see a lot of in those 9 minutes, is just how dynamic he's going to be there, especially in the Pelicans, playing with Lonzo and hit-ahead passes. They're really going to get up and down, and he's really going to be saved a lot by that transition play.
So the Celtics had a pretty good squad, and they had 2 rookies who were kind of higher on the Stepien draft board, Grant Williams and Carson Edwards. Were you pleased with what you saw from those guys, and are you still pretty confident they'll be able to contribute in the NBA?
Definitely pleased. I thought both were really solid. I mean, Carson Edwards, you kind of saw how dynamic and versatile his shot is. Not someone who has to have the ball. I mean, you want to use him as a transition point guard. You saw a lot of early drag screens in Summer League for him, where he utilized his momentum to get to his pull-up 3. If you had big step out, he could blow past them in early offense. But you saw a lot of him off the ball, a lot of running off screens, spotting up, and that's what makes him really alluring to me. Is he doesn't need the ball. He can function as kind of like this gravity shooter, running off screens, quickly setting, being a screener himself, very strong frame. So I think he's going to be an awesome fit in Boston. They signed him to a 4-year deal, first 3 years guaranteed. I think they're going to really understand how to utilize him and really leverage his off-ball play. And then Grant Williams, everybody saw the intellect. I mean, the biggest running joke in Summer League was plus minus, and Grant Williams plus minus was like through the roof. And he doesn't even like pay attention to that stat, which is crazy, because this guy's like literally the smartest prospect, like him as a person, that I've ever seen in the draft. Like, he's incredible. He's brilliant. Like, his mom works for NASA. Listen to this guy talk. It's like everything he says, you're like, this guy should be the president in the future. But you saw that manifest on the floor too, like his playmaking. Really high-level passer, really good team defender. He overhelps. He's kind of a chronic overhelper. You saw that a little bit too, and pissed some Boston coaches off. But the skill set's there. He can be that short roll guy. You saw the Carson Edwards, Grant Williams pick and roll, where he can make a read out of that. You also saw the shooting. This is the same case with Brandon Clark. Grant Williams did not get a lot of credit for that from a lot of mainstream sites, especially. But this guy's elite touch, and you saw him take quick threes off the catch. He was really confident. He got him up, and this is why we were hiring him too. It's just because that shooting, and it's just because he didn't take them at Tennessee. That wasn't his role. He played a lot from the mid post, a lot of post ups that made him look, I think, a little less mobile and a little less modern basketball-esque than he's capable of doing. And I think you saw a little bit more of that in Summer League.
What about Kobe White? Kobe White, who a lot of Bulls fans kind of pencil him in as the starter. Does that seem like a role he's going to be able to live up to? He was kind of underwhelming as far as what I saw from him.
Yeah, I don't think they should start him at least his rookie year. I mean, give him some time to work into the offense. He's best pushing the ball in transition. You saw that. That's his best trait. Like, he's incredible at that. He just gets the ball. He's very fast in the open court. They have personnel to actually surround him on the second unit for the Bulls. You saw Daniel Gafford. He's a good rim runner. Chandler Hutchinson, who also played second-year guy, very good at filling the lanes on the break. But it's the half-court basketball and the initiations are work in progress. His passing got better over the course of Summer League, but you saw, like, the first couple of games, he's more of a one-read guy right now in pick and roll. Mostly always looks for the dive man, doesn't utilize anticipation, hitting skip passes or whatnot. You don't want him dominating the ball. And that IQ, he's never really been like a traditional point guard. He grew up as like a scoring guard. That playmaking aspect is going to take time to develop, but he's not that bad of a shooter. Like, he was 3 of 30 from 3 in Summer League. He's a much better shooter than that. Maybe not like elite level shooter, but he's at least a positive shooter. So I think that was a bit of an exaggeration.
Gotcha. Are the Bulls, trying to think of the Bulls, are they going to start Satoransky, would you think would be the best idea? I mean, I assume they're done with Chris Dunn.
I would personally start Satoransky, no question. I think they need that kind of ball moving, quick decision making, and he can definitely play off the ball. But I think Boylan came out and said that their starting lineup's going to have Dunn at point guard. And I think they're probably doing that for defensive purposes, point of attack defense. Him and Wendell Carter being the two positive defenders on that team. Yeah, I would start Satoransky though.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the Knicks. I guess we kind of got to. They're a team I probably saw the most of, just because I guess it lined up either with me staking out Grizzlies games, or they had RJ Barrett and he was one of the only top draft picks playing. So I saw the first 2 games, like, from start to finish of RJ Barrett, and they were really terrible. I saw some of his third game that was pretty good, and then I saw the stats of his fourth game where he almost had a triple-double. I haven't figured out a way to watch that game yet. But what's the overall takeaway from RJ Barrett?
I think it's going to be a little bit more of a work in progress. And this, again, was something we thought at the Stepien, and it was... He got a lot of credit for just coming in and being like this dynamic player. Like, he's going to, like, super high floor. He's going to be able to contribute right away. And there's just a lot of aspects of his game he's going to have to improve on. You saw the shot. I mean, he didn't shoot the ball well here. That's a huge work in progress, both off the catch, off the dribble. I think he's a better off the catch shooter than he showed at Summer League. It's the playmaking. It's the decision making, frankly. And that's the first 2 games is you saw a lot of what we were saying last year in college was he would drive into 3 guys and there'd be wide open kickouts. Everybody notes and like took screenshots of that Kevin Knox above the break 3 where he was wide open and RJ just took this wild runner. That happens all the time. So, like, how is this guy going to be efficient coming into the league? You saw the lack of separation ability, more of a power player, not very shifty or nimble with his handle. His handle needs a lot of work too. He's going to have to develop like a step back 3, I think, in isolation. So there's just a lot of moving parts with this game. It's going to take some patience for the Knicks, and they don't have spacing. That's the problem with them is they have like 5 power forwards. Like, they're going to start Julius Randle and Mitch Robinson with like maybe Marcus Morris and RJ Barrett and a point guard that can't shoot and Elfrid Payton. So it's going to be, you have to put him in positions to succeed. It's not like this guy's going to come in and be like this dynamic franchise changing player.
Yeah, I think it's strange to some degree. I mean, like, it's fun to clown on the Knicks, and a lot of people were clowning on RJ Barrett, myself included. And then you see like Knicks fans being very defensive. So I think someone was pointing out like he's the only Summer League player to ever average 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. And so now Knicks fans are all super excited. I'm kind of like, the guy was the consensus 3 pick. I don't feel like the Knicks should really. I mean, maybe not on the Stepien, but like, I don't feel like the Knicks should, 1, take much credit or much abuse. Like, everyone was saying, like, RJ Barrett to the Knicks. So, I don't know. Based on, I guess, the small window of games that I saw, one of the top rookies for me that I don't feel like has even been talked about that much was the Iggy Brazdeikis. That guy was incredible. I assume since he was drafted so late, he actually isn't that incredible. Was he playing above his head in Summer League?
Not really, honestly. That's his game.
Okay.
He's very decisive off the catch. You saw, maybe he's not that good of a shooter because he shot the hell out of the ball at Summer League, but he's a good shooter. And he's a very good off-ball advantage scorer. So when he gets off the catch, catches on the hop, very decisive. He's either going to shoot it or he's going to drive immediately. We saw some playmaking. I think his passing was a little bit better than some anticipated in Summer League, made some decent reads. He's basically like RJ Barrett, though. They're very similar as far as approach. They're both very confident players. And I think that really helps Iggy a lot. I mean, again, that off-ball scoring role, it's going to be able to fit into most teams. I think he can do that stuff. It's just it's all about how his athleticism and his lack of length. He's not very explosive as far as leaping ability, how that translates up to the NBA game, but that is his game. What he showed is very representative of what his skill set is.
Yeah, he was always slashing. I was always impressed. Like every time he got it, he was just attacking. You're like, this guy, man, I'm all about this guy. This guy's fun. Are there any more? I guess we'll always talk about. Tell me about Rui Hachimura. I feel like he's a guy who got dumped on a lot by a lot of different factions of NBA draft folks. He put up some great stats. I only saw him play one time. What did he show?
He had one really strong game. I can't remember who they were playing, where you saw the overall arsenal and what the NBA envisions his skill set being, which is kind of like a face-up scorer and someone who can take advantage of mismatches. So in theory, he can blow past bigger bigs, like center-sized guys, maybe some power forwards, get to the rim. And against smaller guys, he can really drop the shoulder and shoot over the top. A lot of pull-up shot making. And he had that one game where you saw those two facets kind of come together, and that was the idea behind Washington taking him at 9. I don't know if we really saw enough in this setting to really harp on what his biggest problems are, which is feel related. So does he make good decisions? He never really has on either side of the floor. And that's not really going to be drawn out in this setting where the game isn't as fast. In the NBA, the game's incredibly fast. So you have to think, you have to anticipate. Those are the things that he's going to struggle with. But yeah, I mean, he does have NBA qualities. I think he's not like a guy who doesn't have any NBA skill. It just comes down to, does a shot translate from 3, kind of a flatter release? I think it's going to in time. Maybe that takes a little bit to iron it out. So you saw some positives from him. It's not like everything with him is negative. It's just, does he have the feel to really apply this all functionally to the floor at the NBA level?
Were there any other rookies that caught your eye that you thought were had pretty impressive summer leagues?
Yeah, I'm looking through these guys again. Like for me personally, I know a lot of these guys like the back of my hand by now, so there wasn't like a lot to surprise. I think Terrence Davis is worth mentioning.
Yeah,
Ole Miss. Yeah, he of course started summer league with the Nuggets, and this is someone who should have been drafted probably top 40, and he didn't want to take a 2-way contract, so he bet it himself. And I think 2 games in, Masai Ujiri signed him to a 2-year deal, first year guaranteed with the Raptors. And he's a high level athlete. You saw the shooting acumen, a little bit of pick and roll ability. He's a little wild with his decisions at times, but you combine that intersection of, high level athleticism with the ability to shoot the ball. And that immediately stuck out to at least some executives. So I was really happy for him. He's a great kid. And that's just an example of betting on yourself and it working out.
So the Terrence Davis story, if I understand it correctly, this is a guy, I didn't know who he was. He let teams know, or his agent let teams know in the second round that like, hey, don't draft us. Is that like what he did? Because he wanted to be a free agent?
Yeah, he basically was like, I don't want to sign a 2-way deal.
Gotcha.
And a lot of those guys, that's part of the negotiating process is we need to know if you want to take a 2-way or not. We need to know what to do with you.
Right.
We don't have an open roster. You know what I mean? So,
Gotcha.
And he wasn't willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, and I know even after the draft, he was turning down the 2-ways. He plays one game for the Nuggets and then immediately gets signed. I actually, I bet against the Nuggets the next game, because I knew Terrence Davis wouldn't be there. I'm like, that guy was amazing first game, and he did. Yeah, he just tore it up in summer league. What kind of player is he? Like, what kind of player does he project to be? Like, what's his role in the NBA?
Yeah, he's more of a secondary, tertiary ball handler. He can run a little bit of pick and roll, shoot a little bit off the dribble. We saw him shoot some pull-up threes, but he's not an initiator type. He's not going to run your offense. He's more of like an ancillary guy. He's very strong, so he's a little bit more switchable than your standard 6'4.5" combo guard kind of player. He's very physical. So I think that is going to be something that really stands out, but more of a tertiary guy. He's not someone, again, who's going to be one of your probably 2 main ball handlers on your team.
Gotcha. Any other rookies you want to talk about?
Yeah, we can point out Tyler Hero. I think everybody was really amped about him, and there's good reason for that. I do think he was pretty solid. I think some people have kind of overreacted, and I kind of know why. I think he got branded by a lot of people as like this floppy set shooter, like people are expecting JJ Redick, someone who can't play make. You just kind of run him off screens, and he's a catch and shoot guy. He has more playmaking than that. He can run a pick and roll. He can make basic reads. He has the best touch in the class as far as shooting touch. 90% over that from the foul line in college. We saw that again in summer league. I think he missed like 1 free throw, and you saw the floater touch, the ability to get to a little bit into the rim, put some pressure on the defense, kick the ball out, make some reads. I do think his lack of length extension is going to really stand out at the pro level. His handle isn't as tight as it needs to be in traffic. So there's some things that won't scale as well to the NBA game, but someone who had a really solid summer league. And I think 13, a lot of people were like, how the hell did Miami take him 13? That's too high. I think that was a fine pick. I had him 13 on my board, so I thought the value was there.
I have a question about one of his summer league teammates. I've mentioned him a few times on the show in the last couple of weeks because I saw two of the Heat games, and Kendrick Nunn jumped off the page to me. He was lighting it up. He seemed like a step faster than everyone, and he's a smallish guard, but he could elevate. He was scoring at will. What's the book on Kendrick Nunn?
Yeah, he in college playing for, I think it was Oakland. After he transferred, he was more of like a floppy set shooter. He was a really dynamic off-screen shooter. You saw the athleticism. I didn't know he was that athletic. Some of his finishes were really impressive, and I'd never seen him run as much on the ball as he did in summer league. He played a lot of point guard, facilitated. I think he averaged like over 7 assists a game or something like that per 36. Like, he was pretty impressive making some decisions. I'm not sure if that's going to be his role in Miami far as I think that Miami actually signed him to a contract the last day of the regular season. So they have him like a partial guarantee right now. Smart move for them. I thought he was actually really impressive as far as his on-ball play. I'm a little dubious that translates up a level, but it was good to see playmaking. We know he can shoot, and we know he can shoot off motion, but he showed a lot on the offensive end. I thought his defense actually was pretty disappointing, but I thought for what Miami has invested in him, it was a nice showing for him. Yeah,
I was Googling him because it's again one of those guys you're like, who is this guy? Who, again, it looked like he was just playing at a different speed from everyone else. He just ran past everyone. Like, he'd have the ball and would just go past everybody. Apparently they signed him to a partially guaranteed contract at the end of last regular season. I'm like, I don't remember hearing about this at all. But he was fun to watch. I got a question about a couple of second-year players who had good summer leagues, and so I want to know what your opinion is on whether they can carry that into the regular season and be contributors on their team. Lonnie Walker with the Spurs, Anfernee Simons with the Blazers, and Bruce Brown with the Pistons. How do you think those guys turn their strong summer leagues into regular season contribution roles?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of them are going to be rotation players this year. Like with Lonnie, you saw the shot making. Like, he is one of the best pull-up shooters at Summer League. Those guys always stand out because a lot of guys at Summer League can't shoot off the dribble at a high level, and Lonnie can just get to his spots. He's probably usually the best athlete on the floor. His vertical pop, his 1 foot explosion. You don't see a lot of guys that can jump off 1 foot the way he can. That's why he sticks out like a sore thumb in Summer League. I always worry a little bit about the shot maker types and how they're going to, move up to the NBA game, what role they're going to play in. But I think Lonnie this year off the bench is going to be kind of like that 6-man scorer type. We'll see if he can create for others. I think he had 2 assists in Summer League. Never been his game. He's not an initiator. He's more of like a secondary ball handler, but mostly a scorer. So it's going to be really dependent on his shooting. But there's a lot to like there. He's good on defense in space as far as switching. He's strong. He's got quick feet. He's not a very good team defender. I think that's probably going to stand out a little bit more in the Spurs. But you have to like that at least from an ability to play a role and be in a rotation this year. I think he's probably ready to do that. Anfernee Simons is not the exact same, but kind of similar, but more in a lead guard role. He's a really good pull-up shooter. You saw that ability, the one motion shot. He can get to his spots there. Doesn't really attack the rim often. Not a natural point guard. He's more of a combo guard. So I think you might see Portland play him next to a Dame, next to a CJ, and have him kind of just fixate on scoring. He's not someone who's going to run 1-5 pick and roll and be the engine of your offense. But it's really learning. When he gets hot from three, you saw one of the games where he had 31 points or 35 points and hit 7 threes. He can do that stuff off the dribble. His shot is really dependable. Bruce Brown, to me, it was the best player at Summer League. He averaged a triple-double per 36, and you saw his game against Portland. It was an absolute clinic. It was really, really impressive stuff about making the right decisions basically every time. He absolutely skewered Portland's defense. I think he probably produced over 25 threes in that game for his team. So it was an incredible display. You worry a little bit, though, because he was playing such a point guard role at Summer League. Can he do that at the NBA level? Because he doesn't have any shooting gravity. That's always been his bugaboo, is this guy can't shoot off the dribble, really. He's not a reliable spacer off the ball. Can the Pistons really play him as a point guard, like a backup point guard, when other teams are ducking under ball screens every time? So I'm not sure how translatable it is, but he at least showed the ability to play make at a high level, make great decisions. If he can really shoot off the catch, I think he's a starting level player in the NBA and a quality one. If he ever gets a pull-up jumper, that's going to be one of the biggest spikes we see between kind of a prospect, kind of a player that's considered a prospect, and then just vaulting into a level where he could potentially be a high-end starter.
I like how you speak in the second person and you're like, you saw him against Portland. No, I did not. No, I didn't. But I heard everyone talking about him. I heard Bruce Brown having to get a good run. Anfernee Simons strikes me as a Lou Williams who can't draw fouls. And I don't know if that's a good thing.
I like that.
You know, like he was hitting a lot of shots, but it's like, yeah, you get that mid-range pull-up. I don't know how well that's gonna work. But yeah, he was a positive contributor, definitely. Were there any other guys that you thought, second-year guys that you thought, are taking a step up for their teams in the following season that you saw at Summer League?
I mean, we saw Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks.
Yeah.
I think in this setting, he's going to stand out. He's the best athlete, relative to his size. Like, there's just nobody that looks like him and plays like that. He's going to start for the Knicks. We'll see. Kind of again, we talked about the lack of spacing, but defensively, this guy a lot of times in the draft and with the prospects, people are like, oh, he has the athleticism and the tools to be like this elite player. And it's almost never true because they don't have the foundational IQ. There's always something missing. Like maybe they're not even that functional of an athlete. But Mitchell Robinson, like he has the foundation to be an elite level defensive player. I've never seen anybody block so many pull-up jumpers. Like I don't know why people keep shooting over this guy, and I have no idea why they would do that. But I do think he has the potential to be that. Knox for the Knicks, who knows? I mean, I think everybody this year was kind of my favorite reaction in Summer League because everybody was overreacted so much last year to Knox's play.
Sure.
And a lot of us that watched him in college and stuff were like, just be patient with this guy. You know what I mean? And this year, like nobody overreacted. We don't give a shit. Like we want to see it in the NBA before we overreact. So that was kind of entertaining. Some other guys like Josh Okogie, I thought he was kind of interesting. Worked on his ball handling a little bit. Like he initiated some sets. You saw a little bit more secondary creation. He's definitely a guy to watch. Jacob Evans for the Warriors. A guy who completely forgot how to shoot his rookie year. I think he had an injury that kind of altered his mechanics. He just couldn't get shots up. So he's kind of back. I think he's going to play a rotation role for them this year. Smart, cerebral player. They want to play him at point guard. I don't think that's a good idea. He just doesn't have that kind of athleticism. He's more of a tertiary, secondary guy, but a high IQ. And then Zaire Smith is the last guy I'll mention for the Sixers, of course, and just a guy it was great to see back on the floor after what he experienced last year. He get his weight back up. He looks like kind of the frame that we saw before. This guy has incredible instincts on both sides of the basketball. Like his defensive instincts. He had one stint where he literally stole the skip pass and he anticipated it 2 times in a row for open court dunks. Like this guy reads the floor. He's going to play a role for Philly this year. Incredibly switchable. He's like a 6'4" power forward. And he plays way bigger than his size. He's incredibly fun. So he's going to be someone I think that a lot of casual fans get acquainted with this year because he's going to have to play a role for these guys off the bench.
Going back to Mitchell Robinson, are you worried at all about maybe the mental aspect to his game? The way that I want to say he gets like, it's Summer League, but he would get like 3 or 4 turnovers, 3 or 4 goaltends, 6 or 7 fouls, and his team would lose by 10 or 15. And I was like, is this good? I know he's shooting 88% from the field and getting 4 blocks a game, but are you worried at all about like him putting it together?
Yeah, definitely. I think he just has the foundation for it. And I tweeted the other day, like, I wish that they would get him with, like, the best defensive technical coach as far as his technique and space. He fouls so much. Like, he just has to figure out how to use his hands and his chest in space instead of just reaching in or being a touch late and, like, running into a player and at the rim contesting vertically, not just having these bizarre arm angles that he fouls. There's a lot to clean up there. I don't think he's, like, a low IQ defensive player, though. I think, like, the goaltends were obscene. I think that was against Phoenix, and it was like, dude, what are you doing? You have like 5 goaltends in this game.
Right.
But like, you hope you figure that stuff out, and that definitely is a little bit of a cause for concern. I just think he's so raw technically. There's just so much work there, but his foundational instincts, like he rotates on time, he has a great motor, he can test everything. Sometimes he chases blocks too much, like straight up. But I think that there's some upside. And again, it's not like this guy's like Jaren Jackson as a cerebral defensive player, but this guy moves like nobody. Yeah. Like even if you get by him, he'll still recover and block your shot. Like he has such a high margin for error because of his physical tools.
Yeah, and speaking of Josh Okogie, Grizzlies fans, Grizzlies won the Summer League championship because Josh Okogie set out the championship game. Like that was a big difference maker. Finally, to wrap up, were there any like second or third year players that you saw that were disappointing, and you're like, okay, we can be done with this guy? These guys maybe don't have it.
Yeah, there's a couple guys. Sorry to do this to Grizzlies fans, but Grayson Allen, like,
Oh, he was bad.
I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of that guy. Obviously, the annex on the floor, we saw that with Grant Williams. That was upsetting. But just his ability to create separation. You saw how much his game was reliant on like drawing bullshit fouls and like kind of filling around. Like he's not creating separation consistently. And I've just never been a huge fan of his game. I don't even know if the Grizzlies are going to prioritize him. Will it be on the roster? Ivan Rabb's another guy on Memphis. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's pretty solid. But he doesn't do anything like spectacularly well. And I think in the modern game with those bigs, like Brandon Clark's going to blow him out of the water. Is he going to get a rotation spot really on any team where you can sign a better player for the minimum? That was kind of disappointing. Pasekniks, I think I'm pronouncing that right. A guy who the Sixers drafted a center 2 years ago. He was on the Wizards Summer League team. He was one of the worst players at Summer League. That was one of the worst picks even at the time that I can remember. That was the Colangelo era. That was just a really, really bad play. I'm trying to think of who else
I want to say he shot like 16%. I was just looking at all the worst shooters, and I saw him up there. But anyway.
Yeah, he's not a good basketball player, so that was kind of a sunk cost pick in the first round. I'm trying to think. I think the last guy, this is kind of more of a political play by the Mavericks, but Kostas Antetokounmpo, he's just not good. He's just so far away. He was on a 2-year two-way, and this guy doesn't look like he can play at any kind of relatively high level. Like he looked like he's not skilled enough for even summer league play. The fuel isn't there. I mean, there's been a lot of suggestion that the Mavs signed him as like a shoe, like an early line to Giannis potentially. Who the hell knows? But I just don't think he's very good at basketball.
What about Aaron Holiday? The Pacers had a really terrible squad at Summer League, but Aaron Holiday looked pretty bad. I don't know if that was just the surrounding cast. He couldn't do much when asked to do everything by himself. What did you see much of Aaron Holiday, and what would you take away there?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought him up. He didn't quite meet this threshold for me. Like I'm done with him.
Sure,
but I was I was disappointed. Like a lot of his decision making, I wasn't a fan of. Very, very inconsistent as far as his ability to read the floor, and that's always been his issue. Is that he's more of a scoring kind of shooting point guard, and I think he's a better shooter than he showed at Summer League. He can really shoot the hell out of the ball. He's one of the best college, I guess, quote unquote, league guard shooters we've seen over the past decade. Like his diverse shot, but as far as at his size, you didn't see him create the requisite separation. Not a crazy athlete, even though he's underrated. I think, especially you'll see him like block some shots. You're like, holy shit, like this guy at this size. But his ability to actually play a point guard role, I've always been pretty suspect of. Like I didn't have him as a first round guy. I think Indiana said they had him as a top 14, top 13 guy. Teams always say that, so who the hell knows if that's real, but he didn't play that way. Like there's a huge difference to me between him and Bruce Brown, for example. I thought that they were on completely different levels of play as far as how they read the game.
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Cole, for sharing your expertise with us. Do you have anything you want to talk about that's not draft related? I mean, I always pigeonhole you. I mean, do you have opinions? You want to talk about the Rockets and Westbrook and Harden or anything?
Yeah, we did that yesterday on Sam Vecini's Game Theory podcast. We talked about the Rockets trade for I think 35 minutes. So I guess
you're done. Okay, so that'll work. Who are your finals picks right now? Who's going to play in the finals next year?
Oh, you're just going right to it now.
No, yeah, I want to jump ahead. I don't care about the 2020 draft. I want to know about the 2020 finals.
I think I'm going right now. I'm going Clippers in the West. Yep. I really hope they get Iguodala too. I think that's the move that just puts everybody else in a vice grip. Like if they get Iguodala and they can roll out those perimeter defenders, they need some secondary ball movement. I think that's the one outside of interior rim protection. I think the one weakness for the Clippers right now is they don't have enough like play linkers, enough of those quick decision makers, those passers like a Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet. I think Iguodala would actually really help them there. But I do like them coming out. I just love the way they match up with the Lakers right now, especially in just Kawhi and Paul George. That's hard to bet against. In the East, I think in a vacuum, Milwaukee might be the best team, but I really like how Philadelphia matches up with them. And I know that's kind of a lazy argument at this point because of the Giannis factor, but they have Embiid, who I think is probably the best Giannis defender, and they also have Horford, who might be the second best. And I think they're really going to make things difficult for Milwaukee to score. I'm not sure if Philadelphia can ever score. Like that's a huge issue because Jimmy Butler losing him and kind of the only guy who can create for himself and others off the dribble is going to rear its head at some point. Like they might lose in an earlier round matchup. I don't think that's out of the question, like maybe to Boston or something, but I do like the way Philly matches up with Milwaukee. So right now I'll go Clippers, Sixers in the finals.
That's great. Well, thanks, Cole. Really appreciate your time, and I look forward to talking with you again soon sometime.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks to Cole for coming on. Make sure you check out all of his draft analysis at The Stepien, STEPIEN, thestepien.com. If you want to support our show, you do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. I just put up a solo podcast, a Grizzlies only podcast. I called it Grits and Grind. It's available for just $1 and up a month. I might do more of those. I'm probably going to do more of those. Just to let you know, they're probably not going to stay at the $1 level. The $5 level is our normal extra podcast level. But I put up a Grizzlies podcast, Grits and Grind. If you want to get that over at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. I'm still selling the Boban and John Wick shirts, the very nice high quality shirts that the tri-blend. They have the picture on the front. They have our name on the back. Those are $15 if you're a Patreon member or $20 if you're not. That's shipping included. Just email me at fastbreakbreak@gmail.com or slide into my Twitter DMs and I will get those shirts out to you. Also, the TeePublic store is on sale if you want to get all the other shirts that I don't have actual printed up versions of. Currently, all of our shirts are on sale at teepublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast. Easy to remember. We talk about it all the time. teepublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast. All the shirts there are $14 plus like a $6 shipping for that. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at FastBreakBreak. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. All right, you guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fast break, man. You understand?